What happened to the Tea Party movement? Is the elite media correct when they say the thrill is gone? I'm Anne Marie.
I'm Jan.
I'm Janique.
That's what we'll discuss with today's honorary PolitiChick and one of the founders of the Tea Party movement on this episode of
PolitiChicks.
Jenny Beth Martin is a mother, an author, and a woman who got tired of politics as usual. Instead of griping about it to her friends and family, she got organized and helped found the Tea Party Patriots. Yay, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
What made you become so active? What was your turning point?
Well, during the elections in 2008, I was not real happy with the way things ended.
Really?
And who was elected.
Very few people felt that way.
But instead of getting frustrated and hiding under the covers and complaining about it, I got involved with top conservatives on Twitter and Smart Girl Politics as they were just getting started. And so we started interacting online. And then
So it's through social media.
social media. And I used to program computers. I'm a geek. I love politics and computers. So I'm really weird. I'm a nerd.
Very cool.
That's a good combination.
Oh, absolutely.
Effective, obviously.
It is.
Yeah.
So then in February of 2009, Rick Santelli on CNBC had this rant, and he was complaining about the stimulus bill. And he said in it very specifically, who here, he was on the floor of the Chicago Stock Exchange, who here wants to pay for their neighbors' mortgages that have more bathrooms than you when the neighbors can't pay for their house themselves? And it really struck a chord with me. My husband and I had just gone through bankruptcy. We had just lost our house. We had turned down money from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to bring us current and bail us out and started over. And we didn't think the government should be bailing us out. So it really, and we were actually cleaning our neighbors' bathrooms instead of them paying for a house we could no longer afford. So I had to get involved in using those hashtags SGP and TCOT on Twitter. We started talking. We had a conference call the next day. A week later, we had tea parties, 48 around the country with 35,000 people. We've been growing ever since.
But you know, that's really interesting too, though, because Time in 2010 named you as one of the top 100 most influential leaders. And that's really remarkable because it was alongside Nancy Pelosi and President Obama, but also Glenn Beck, Sarah Palin.
Yeah.
And when you look at the numbers, I mean, clearly you are influential when you consider there are now over 3,000 chapters, over 20 million people. So what is it about your story and even the whole Tea Party Patriot movement that's really resonating with the people to get them involved? I mean, they're motivated to get involved.
There are people all around the country who either have gone through the personal financial crisis that my family went through, or they know family members or neighbors who've gone through it. There are foreclosures, there are people who've lost their jobs. They get that people in this country are having trouble. And they also understand that our government is not being responsible with our money. So one of our core values is fiscal responsibility. And we're striking a chord with the hearts of Americans.
With such a big start like the Tea Party had, how does it make you feel today when you hear people in the national media say the Tea Party's no longer relevant?
Yeah. What are you guys doing?
Well, you know what? I've learned along the way that you have to just ignore what the media says. You have to pay attention to it so you know what's happening, and then you just keep plugging along. From the very beginning, they said we were irrelevant, that we weren't making a difference, and they said we were AstroTurf. Time did name me as one of the top leaders in 2010, but at the end of 2009, after there had been a march on DC with somewhere between 1.2 and 1.7 million people, they didn't even have one picture of a Tea Party protest in their year-end review. So, you know, you take it with a grain of salt, and we know we're making a difference. We're prepared, we're ready, and 2012 is going to be the best year yet.
Mark Levin recently, I just went to a dinner, and Mark Levin recently said that you guys are maturing, that you're no longer just out there doing protests and rallies.
Right.
Now you guys are really
We're training
evolving.
people. We are evolving, and we've been evolving the whole time. We're training people. We're making sure they understand the importance of traditional get-out-the-vote techniques and methods. We're making sure that they understand that we need normal, everyday people to step up and run for office, and that we have to watch our elected officials. Once they're elected, we can't just turn our back and trust them. If we do that, we're going to continue continue down the same path we've been going.
That doesn't work for
no,
us so
it
well.
doesn't work at all.
But you know, interestingly enough, the media has played a very significant role in the shaping of public perception of the Tea Party movement as a whole. So there are some people that have a heart for this nation and the message resonates with them, but yet they're apprehensive about getting involved. So who is the new face? Because it's not just white people, it's not just even conservatives. So who is the new face of the Tea Party movement, and what are the core values that it represents? 'Cause I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would probably like to get involved.
Yeah, you know, our face, we have hundreds, thousands of leaders. We've said we're a leaderless movement, or we're a movement with hundreds or thousands of leaders. And so there are many, many faces. Our core values are fiscal responsibility, constitutionally limited government, and free markets. And when I talk to everyday Americans who are not involved in politics, I just say, look, you're working right now. You're standing here at this checkout line working. You don't want the government to take the money that you're working for and go and spend it on things for people who don't even work, or spend it and put us in debt. You have to balance your checkbook at the end of the month. And they're like, oh yeah, you're right. And when you start talking to them with just the basics and the common sense that we really need to return our country to, they get it and they go, oh, wow, maybe I am a Tea
And
Party.
it's not just Republicans either. Aren't there Democrats who are also getting involved too?
Absolutely. There are Democrats, there are Republicans, there are people who used to feel like they were Republicans but now consider themselves more American or independent, because both parties have failed us, both parties.
What do you say to people who are, because you were involved in politics a little bit. You said you were kind of volunteering for the Republican Party before you became active with the Tea Party. What do you say to the people who are waking up to what's really going on in America and they want to get involved, but they're afraid? They're afraid of repercussions from the government, and you know.
Yeah, it makes sense to be afraid. It's hard to get out of your comfort zone and go and do something. And when the first time somebody said I was a political activist, I cringed. I was like, I'm not one of those people. But you know,
Well, it's because the other side was always activists.
Right.
They were the bad guys.
Right,
And they were
exactly.
scary. Yeah.
And a protester, I'm not a protester, you know, I had images of hippies. Yeah. You know, so, but the best thing to do is get involved. Go to our website, teapartypatriots.org, find a local group. And you know what, don't even join a local group. Just start watching what your congressmen and senators do. And when bills come up that you care about, pick up the phone and start telling them, this is how we want you to vote. And then after you've done that a little bit, then go and get more active and go to meetings and go to protests and hold signs up.
But is it a legitimate fear? You and I were talking before the show about how some people are afraid of repercussions from the government, whether it's the IRS or whatever. Is that a legitimate fear for people to have?
I think it is a legitimate fear. Right now, the IRS is asking of groups that are trying to apply for nonprofit status within the political arena all sorts of questions, and many of them are very invasive. Who have you talked to? Who on Capitol Hill have you talked to? What correspondence?
Which can be scary.
Yeah, and I think that that's a bit over the top, and it's violating our First Amendment rights to free speech.
Absolutely.
But you can't let that fear, you cannot let that fear stop you. We have to make sure that we step out and that we do what we can to protect our country.
And Jenny Beth, you've written an amazing book. It's called Tea Party Patriots, The Second American Revolution. Tell us about this.
It starts off talking a little bit about how the movement got started, and then it goes on to tell about what we want to see happen in America. We have a 40-year goal. It took us a long time to get where we are in America, and it's going to take a long time to get out of it. It goes through 5 different pathways for how we can achieve the 40-year goal of instilling our core values in the hearts and minds of our fellow Americans. And then at the end, it asks people, are we right or not? Because it's a grassroots bottom-up movement. And we encourage people to go back to our website at teapartypatriots.org and let us know what they think the solutions are to achieve the goal in the next 40 years.
Can you share 2 of those 5 goals with us?
The overall goal is to sway the hearts and minds of over 60% of Americans and instill our core values in the hearts and minds. And the way we're going to do that is through 5 pathways: cultural, political, economic, education, and judicial.
Awesome. And where can they find your book?
You can find it at any major retailer, Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, and at teapartypatriots.org.
Good luck with your book.
Thank you.
And thank you guys so much for watching, and please watch us again at PolitiChicks.tv, the right kind of PC.